A report from the Nebraska State Auditor shows a dozen Nebraska State employees abused the use of state vehicles. The audit on the Board of Parole shows their management failed to look over the records of how their cars were used, including GPS tracking in the cars. The report claims a dozen employees made nearly 300 unapproved trips to their homes in 1 year. Personal use of a state-owned vehicle is classified as a misdemeanor in Nebraska.